Brilliant. Hello all, and welcome to the next Cybersecurity Insider Session. Today, we're going to be talking about Microsoft 365 and going through a Copilot workshop and kind of talking about the art of the possible. So if you want to flick through, James, to the next slide. So you got myself. For once, I'm not going to be doing too much talking, so everyone will be happy about that one. We've got James on, who's an AI business solution specialist from Giacom. If you want to introduce yourself, James.
Yeah, by all means. Thanks very much, Owen. So yeah, I'm James Graves. I'm as you said, AI business solution specialist at Giacom. Basically what that means in short is I live and breathe everything Microsoft 365, Microsoft Copilot, and Microsoft Security as well. So yeah, the bread and butter day to day for me looks like talking all things Copilot as we are here today at the moment.
Brilliant. So he's going to go through a slide deck, talk about the art of the possible within Copilot. I've posted in the QA already, asking you guys to post any questions you have. Feel free to post during the presentation, and we'll answer them all at the end. So over to you, James.
Amazing. Thanks very much. So thanks very much, everyone, for being here with us today. Little bit of an agenda for you all, just so you know what we're going to be covering off. Going to go a little bit of an overview, talk around some of the free versus paid versions of Copilot, Copilot Chat, which is in both the free and the paid version of Copilot, onto some key capabilities, a couple of little demo videos and things like that for you all, talking around some of those plugins and customization onto agents, and finishing things off with some of the use cases, etc., that we're starting to see develop as a consequence of those agents, etc., and hopefully give you all a bit of a creative spark, should we say, on how you could potentially use these in your own organization. So kicking things off with that overview for you all then, and talking around kind of, let's say, generative AI technology on the whole. Now, we've got mention of ChatGPT on the screen here, and we do that because it was the first, let's say, major generative AI technology that came available to organisations in the UK, shall we say, and also the wider public, shall we say. And obviously what you'll see here now is it's kind of that unicorn number that a lot of these tech companies like to see, that 100 million active users mark. And obviously you'll see on here technologies today that we wouldn't live without: the mobile phone, the internet, Facebook taking 16 years, 7 years, and 4.5 years. And then we reach ChatGPT, which hit that 100 million unicorn number in 2 months. And if you believe some news sources, it was actually done in 6 weeks, but I've gone with the conservative number here of 2 months. But yeah, they actually believed it was done in 6 weeks to hit that 100 million active users mark on it, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And the reason I always like to start and mention this sort of thing for people is because it very much puts the emphasis around mobile phones, internet, Facebook. It's technologies that we can't live without today, and generative AI, things like ChatGPT and Copilot that we're here to talk about today now, are very much in that same sort of circle now, where it's the cat's out the bag, and these technologies very much are going to be here to stay, and we are going to expect them to just continue to expand at pace in terms of capabilities and things like that. Little mention at the bottom there: work implications, guardrails, governance, data protection, and the responsibility of employees in using this. At every point in time, I very much like to have people kind of think around this aspect of things, that AI technology is absolutely amazing, but only if you get it right in terms of how you roll it out. So I wouldn't want people to be scared of it. It's a fantastic technology that can bring some incredible benefits to organizations, but it's really important that these things are planned out correctly. The team at BDR are incredibly well placed to be able to support you with that type of activity, to make sure you've got the guardrails, the governance, the data protection packages and things of that nature in place to ensure that your employees can use it in a responsible manner, but also to ensure that they're using the secure and the protected versions of these technologies and not potentially malicious ones that exist out there. So, little plug here for a Microsoft document, which we call the Work Trend Index Report. And I do mention this because this is the document that guards Microsoft in terms of where it's going to go and what it's going to do when it comes to its productivity and collaboration style technologies, which includes Copilot as a part of that. And what Microsoft do is they run this wet trend index report. They run it twice every year, sometimes a little bit more, depending on if they get the time for it. But they survey approximately 30,000 people across 31 countries. Many of those countries are highlighted on the screen here. And basically what they do is they're analysing things like labour information and hiring trends from LinkedIn, but they're also studying other things like 365 productivity patterns globally, interviewing AI startup economists, academics, entrepreneurs, etc., to kind of build a picture for themselves really on where their technology stack needs to move to next in order to support organizations around the world. And like I say, they run this a couple of times a year to make sure they're staying on the right track and that they're not seeing slippage or movement in terms of where they're going and what they're trying to do with this with their approach. So it provides some really, really great insight, and the document they actually make free to download. So if you are a little bit of a nerd like me, shall we say, and you do find that type of thing interesting, you can download that document, and it does provide some really, really interesting information, not just from the Microsoft and the technology perspective as well, but also hiring trends and labor stats and statistics and things like that as well. So again, a little bit of an interesting read. If it is something you are wanting to look at, a quick Google and you will find that document downloadable from Microsoft. And that document actually drives a lot of the stats, statistics and things like that you see as we go through the presentation today. And you'll see that here now. So AI adoption increases and security is crucial, as I mentioned a few moments ago. So 80% of employees are bringing their own AI tools to work, which on paper sounds amazing. The staff are bringing their own tool. It doesn't cost the business anything, and we get the great productivity benefits that come off the back of it. In theory, again, sounds great, but in the practicality of things, it's not an ideal scenario. And the reason I say that is because these technologies, when they bring their own version, can sometimes be what we call the free versions, basic versions, scaled back versions of these technologies. And I'm sure many of us have heard horror stories of people's intellectual property and things like that cropping up in various parts of the web, shall we say. And it's usually because proprietary information, intellectual property, people's personal information has been input into these free tools, etc. And as a consequence, that data has been used to train the large language model, which means that data can potentially end up in the public domain. Now, this isn't just something that affects SMBs. There is, with an easy search, to find scenarios where Samsung was caught out by this, as well as numerous other, large technology vendors and other industry sectors, etc. as well. So it's something that a few industries, a few companies have also fallen foul to, should we say, by not providing a corporate solution that is protected and set up correctly. Right hand side, a few more stats for you there. 2 times in terms of the data security incidents from the use of AI applications, nearly doubled in 2024. So the amount of data security incidents doubled year over year from 2024 into 2025, which means as a whole host of people have to report themselves for various different infringements of data security. And again, depending on what type of data that was, it can come with other consequences. Think of things like, punitive fines and things like that come from various things like GDPR and the like. 74% of organizations experienced at least one data security incident, which exposed business data. Now that 74% number, that comes from both a cybersecurity perspective, but also from the use of an AI perspective as well. So again, organizations are on the rise in terms of the number of them which are having these data security incidents and this exposed business data being out there into the public domain. 93% of companies took proactive action, implementing new controls for employees' use of generative AI. So this is where we are now starting to see organizations that will be starting to pursue internal almost like mandatory policies and documentation, etc., around the use of AI. So whether that be a corporate solution that's rolled out and all of the solutions get a physical block on them from a technology perspective, or it's a case of going, you can use whichever versions you want, but you sign the documents to understand that you don't put this type of data in. And there's ways and means of putting in alerts and things like that in of that nature to help protect you as an organization as well. But we are starting to see those sorts of data controls become very, very prominent. I actually was with a rather large coffee chain a few weeks ago at the Microsoft offices, they was very, very committed that they had a questionnaire among their colleagues which said that this was the technology that was being used across the organization, and we had the usual suspects of ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, and things like that all came up as AI solutions that were being used. We ran a scan on their environment and we found a further 15 different AI tools that had also been used, with everything from Grammarly, even of all things, being included inside of that. And it's simply in some instances because people don't recognize that they're using AI technologies and they are putting the sensitive information into that. And it's as AI becomes more prevalent, everybody's product needs to have AI included, and people don't recognize the fact that they're actually interacting with certain types of AI technology. So again, people taking proactive action to implement controls is a really, really positive sign. And again, team at BDR are well placed to support you with that if you have got any concerns. So from a Microsoft perspective, when it comes to this data security aspect, Microsoft goes with these 4 main commitment points. And this is really important to remember that this exists whether you are on the free business version that's included in your Microsoft 365 license, or you are on the full fat paid for version. You still get the same level of security from a Microsoft perspective. So first box in the top left side there, we secure your data at rest and in transit. So that basically means that when your data travels between Microsoft and its various data centers, just like it has done for OneDrive and SharePoint for a number of years, your data remains encrypted during that journey. So there's no way that anybody is looking at or seeing what is inside of that data package when it goes to and from Microsoft's cloud environment. So there's data centers that we all hear so much about. You control your data, so your data remains your data. That means it remains your responsibility as part of that. So it's your responsibility to have your data backed up. It's your responsibility to secure your data and utilize the tools that Microsoft can provide for you. So again, your data, your control, Microsoft playing no part in that aspect of things for you. So your data is not used to train or enrich the foundation models. So when we say the foundation models, we mean the large language models. So many of you will have heard of like the different versions of GPT and the different versions of Claude and the Gemini language models. And as we go from version 5.3 to 5.5 and so on and so forth, these are the foundational models, as we call them. And Microsoft doesn't use your data to train or enrich those models, which means, again, your data is remaining more secure as a consequence of that, because it isn't using potential names, data, scenarios, etc., that get inputted into there to support the wider public use of that. And then you are protected against AI security risks and copyright risks. You can't actually see it on this slide because of the colour of it, but in the bottom right hand corner there is a little link inside of there. No doubt if these slides get shared you will be able to click on that link, but a quick search and you'd be able to find this. And that is Microsoft's AI security and copyright risk T's and C's basically. And they are incredibly confident that they're not going to be stepping on anyone's let's say intellectual property or or copyright laws or anything of that nature that come into play here, people's trademarks as a consequence of this. So there is a very lengthy T's and C's section where Microsoft really do put their money where their mouth is, shall we say, in regards to their confidence in their ability to protect your data, but also when it generates content to ensure that you're not infringing anyone's rights, etc., as a part of that. So the whole 365 piece has been built on trust for a number of years, and Copilot just continues with that by utilising what you see here and what we've just discussed. Amazing. So the next thing we usually get asked at this point is people's return on investment. And as we've seen lots and lots of Copilot rollouts since its introduction a few years ago now, one of the big things that we've started to see more and more use cases of is people starting to do what we call return on experience as well as a value measurement for them utilising this. So I'm sure everyone will agree, people complete tasks faster if people get an increased output, optimization of your processes, the quality of people's work improves. These are all fantastic signs, and they're all things that can be used to measure your return on investment. As you get more work done, staff get to do the more, let's say, commercially attractive pieces of their job role rather than those mundane tasks, those administrative heavy aspects. It's a win-win all round there. So what we're seeing people do is return on experience and measuring this. So from the perspective of staff now enjoy their job more as a consequence of being able to do the pieces of the job they actually enjoy. look at this from a marketing perspective as an example. You have a scenario where your marketing team now no longer have to do 25% of their administrative work because we can automate that using co-pilots and agents, etc., which means they're now doing all of the creative work that they actually really enjoy doing as part of their job role, which means job satisfaction goes up. It means the well-being goes up, the engagement goes up, work-life balance can change as a consequence of that. And that usually in turn leads to employee retention going up as a consequence of that. So return on experience is a real aspect of this now that we're starting to see organisations physically measure alongside the return on investment of the actual rollout of technologies like Copilot. So the idea being here is, from a measurable aspect and all the pieces going around the pinwheel almost we've got on the screen here, is that accelerate the growth of the business. Cost savings from the perspective of we can, not so much cut out the fat, but cut out the fat from the business processes aspect of things, make it so people are doing the more commercially attractive work. The cost avoidance aspect of things, historically, where it may have been costly, should we say, to move into a new geography or move into a new sector or do that product research, again, Copilot can support with that and avoid those additional cost implications. And then the employee retention that we touched on a few moments ago as another benefit that can come about from that type of activity. Amazing. So Microsoft Copilot, let's start talking about it in a little bit more depth now so you can understand exactly what Copilot is and exactly what it does from a day-to-day perspective. So this looks scary. Please don't be scared by it. I'm going to talk you through it from a very high level overview here. And you'll see there's a little bit of a numbered instruction approach that you can see on there as well to support with this. So most people live and breathe inside of their Microsoft 365 application. So we're sat inside of Word, PowerPoint, Excel, our emails, our Teams meetings, etc., which is what we'd expect to see. So I'm currently inside, in this scenario, a freshly opened PowerPoint presentation. I, as a part of that, open up my Copilot and ask Copilot to help me create a PowerPoint presentation that I'm going to present to our board of directors next week regarding the new marketing plan for FY27, for example. And I point it to a Microsoft Word document that me and my marketing team agreed upon 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I point it to that Microsoft Word document. So I'm in PowerPoint. I've given it that prompt, as we call it. That goes away now, and it heads its way all the way down there initially to what we call the Microsoft Graph. Now, the graph is something that is unique to every single organisation. So we at Giacom have one, the team at BDR have their own graph, Microsoft have their own graph, and all of you as your own individual organisations that you work for, all those organisations have their own Microsoft Graph. And the graph is acting almost like a filter inside of there, and it's dictating all of the information that you as a user have access to. So do I have access to those emails, to those files and folders, to that meeting that I attended, to the chat that I'm involved in, and all of my calendar invites and things like that that exist inside of there. So it's literally going to be doing almost like a fact check against me to make sure I'm not trying to access anything that I shouldn't be. So again, in this scenario, I'm in a PowerPoint and I pointed it to a Microsoft Word document. So what Copilot will do is go looking in the graph for that Word document and take that back. So once it's got the document, it's going to take it away. And when it takes it away, it's going over to the large language model there on the right-hand side. The large language model is then going to do the heavy lifting, shall we say. It's going to take my prompt, so my initial request, and the documentation that it's collected from the Microsoft Graph, and it's going to basically bring all of that together into the intended output that I've requested. Now, the large language model, as we said, this isn't training or enriching itself on your data that you've put in there. It's very much a case of it's understanding what it's doing, it's processing that, and then it's handing it over. It isn't using it for its own learning model or anything of that nature. So it's doing all of that processing work for us. It then sends that information back to the graph. The graph will perform a fact check against that document just to make sure that, again, we've not got anything in there that we shouldn't do, that we don't have access to as a part of what that's done. Again, it's using metadata and things in the background to perform that type of piece with that semantic indexing, etc. Once it's done all of its checks and balances, it comes back up to us in our Microsoft 365 application as a completed process. So if you imagine this is all happening within seconds or minutes, depending on the task, all in the background, and then it comes back to us as a completed project piece, shall we say, for us there. We get our response, we get our PowerPoint presentation in our little scenario here that we've got. So as a very high level overview, that's exactly what it's doing. As I'm sure you'll appreciate, there is an awful lot more that goes into it than that, but at a very high level, that's exactly what we're seeing here from a basic architecture level. Amazing. I mentioned that I was going to touch as well onto the differences between the free and the paid versions and things. So I will quickly touch on all of that for you as well. So free version and paid for version. So the free version of Copilot, which is what is baked into Microsoft's 365 business licensing, etc., comes with kind of the core requirements that people need on the day-to-day, shall we say. So you get access to Copilot from a web perspective. So it can go out there and search all of the data it can find on the web, collect all of that information and bring it back to you in various different responses. A lot of people are using that just as a form of, let's say, a highly advanced version of a Google search almost is what it's being utilized as. And then people can add on to it from there by having it drafting up emails inside of there and things like that they then copy and paste into their Outlook to be able to send it to colleagues and customers, etc. So you get that interface. As I said before, you do get that enterprise grade protection on the free version and on the paid for version. That's all included in there. As we carry on, you'll see you get all your chat history and things that it mentions there. You can physically upload a document. So if I have got a Word document and I want Copilot to summarize it for me, I could physically upload that into the chat and ask Copilot to summarize the document for me as a part of that. And then you'll notice that it is metered as well at the free version. So it is almost on like a, depending on the activities being done, some people will hit that metering point where it goes, you've used all of your allowance for the day on the free version. You either upgrade to the paid version or you wait until the following day and then your clock sets to 0, shall we say, and you can start utilizing Copilot again from that metered perspective. So that's that aspect. The paid for version, so the full fat, that comes obviously with the additional features and capabilities. So it does continue to get the web-based data as a source. But what it can also do at this point in time is it can also have access to your internal business information. So at this point, you can imagine this being what we call grounded in your work data. So it can access your meetings, it can access your chats, your OneDrive, it can access the SharePoint sites that you as an individual has access to. And as a consequence of that, when you interact with Copilot, it can therefore be far more precise to you as an individual in its responses because it has access to all of the data that you can see from an organizational perspective. So rather than you uploading one Word document and saying, can you summarize it? We could actually ask Copilot to, can you find this document? It's called Marketing Plan 2027 and please summarize the document accordingly. It'll go away, find the document, summarize it. Or I could even just / find the document and have it summarize it, or reference a particular meeting that I attended and ask it to give me the meeting notes as another example, and it would again go away and do that, find me the action items if I asked for it, and so on and so forth. So it can see the data rather than me having to spoon feed that information into it, which makes it far more productive for people to use. There is also the creativity aspect to take into consideration. So obviously Copilot on the free version can create an image that you can copy and paste into your slide. It can draft an email that you can then copy and paste into your Outlook environment. However, the paid for version can do all of that and more directly into the application. So if you want it to generate bullet points onto a PowerPoint slide, it can do that. If you want it to reorganize the content in a Word document that you've created, again, it can do that. The forecasting of sales data, or even presenting sales data in a different format, creating a dashboard for it and things, again in Excel, all of that capability can be done as a part of that as well. And you see it goes on there, creating that PowerPoint presentation from scratch, creating that Word document to give you the basis for that marketing plan that I've mentioned again, or sales plans you've got going on, or even prep for a customer meeting in Microsoft Teams. Again, all of that requires the paid for license to complete as a part of that journey. You'll also notice down there as well, we've got a couple of agents. There is some agent videos I'm going to show you in a few moments time. So you'll be able to understand what those agents are from like a researcher and an analyst perspective and things like that. Copilot can be accessed from anywhere inside of your applications, but also from the web with m365copilot.com. You can access it from the Copilot app, from your Edge browser, and then down at the bottom there as well, you'll see there is also the Copilot mobile application that is available as well. The mobile application is particularly interesting because it actually has some voice capabilities that come with it. So you can actually talk to Copilot and have it talk back. Again, I'm a little bit of a weirdo in this regard, and I've actually had it reply and send emails for me numerous times hands-free while I've been in the car, and I'm talking to Copilot and telling it what to transcribe onto the email and then send it on in turn for me. So again, great set of capabilities there that you can utilize from Copilot. So now the interesting stuff, demos, videos, the bit you've all been waiting for. I'm going to go through a couple of bits for Outlook, and then I'm going to kind of flip things a little bit, and I'm going to talk about what we call facilitator inside of Teams, which will be kind of the first look we have here today into what we call an agent. But I'll touch on that when we come to it, and I'll kick things off with looking at it in Outlook. Now, this is some of the more easy, straightforward, quick wins that people can get from a productivity perspective, but I think it's really important that people understand the capabilities of what we're starting to see here. So as I hit play on this video, what I will do for you all is talk you through exactly what you're seeing and what's happening. And again, any questions you've got, we will do our best to get them all answered up at the end for you. So keeping that a little bit small for us all there. But in short, what we're seeing it happen here now is my colleague has got an inbox open with a whole host of emails from being off on annual leave. She's now going to use Copilot basically to catch up on the mailbox in this regard. And she's opened up her Copilot icon down that right-hand side. And this has given her some pre-created prompts and a box at the bottom where we can type our own prompt in for what we want Copilot to do for us. Across the bottom, there's some other options that are available to us, such as view prompts, where it'll give us some recommendations. We have our prompt library, and there is also, from an accessibility perspective, the ability to do speech to text, etc. as well in here. You'll notice there, though, my colleague has put a prompt in, basically asking Copilot to go through the unread emails in our inbox, categorize those emails into 3 groups, which is potential candidates for job positions, complaints, and new client requests. And then we've followed that up by asking it to summarize the key points or action items in the emails, highlight anything that's urgent and time sensitive, and then finish things off by suggesting a priority order that we respond to these in. And as you'll see, Copilot is going away and combing through those emails for us, and it's starting to break them down into the 3 categories requested, as well as the summary of the key points and action items, which ones were urgent or time sensitive, and then it's finishing things off there for us with that suggested priority order for responding to those emails as well. And this is really, really powerful from the perspective of, again, we've now gone from 20 emails in an inbox to all of a sudden, great, I've got an inbox now and I know the first 4 emails that I need to respond to as a matter of urgency, and everything else I can deal with as I come to it accordingly. The urgent and the time sensitive ones you'll see appear at the top of the suggested priority order because, again, they have some sort of deadline or time sensitive nature about them. It's suggested that we start with those emails from Christine and Thomas, and the second email there from Mel, for example. So really powerful in what it can do here. The one thing I do like to emphasize to people at this point as a part of this is the response that you will get from Copilot in this regard is really, really important from the perspective of you have to give it a good prompt if you want it to give you a good response. So what you input is only as good as the output is what I'm kind of trying to say here with this. So my colleague asked this to break it into categories, show what was time sensitive, etc. as a part of that. And in turn, they got some great information like this. If we went into Copilot and just said, help me catch up on my inbox, please, Copilot, it's giving it a very, very vague, let's say, criteria there for what we actually want to catch up on as a part of that. Yes, we want to catch up on all the emails, but in what order? If you want them in the most urgent to the least urgent, hell it, that's what you want. If you want it to categorize them, give it the categories you want it to be put into. And this rings true no matter what AI solution you're using, not just Copilot. It's really, really important that you just kind of go through that mindset of giving it a great response. And there is a little bit at the end of here about what we call GCSE, which is around good prompting. But you'll see that none of that was increased in speed. My colleague goes up there and gives you a bit of a run through so you can see all of those emails being categorized accordingly for us. And then you'll notice down at the bottom as well, Copilot's made a couple of recommended follow-up prompts for us, such as can you draft a response for Christine and Thomas? We know that that was the one that was at the top of the list on the priority order for us to respond to first. And it's saying, let's start drafting a response to that. So Copilot can help us immediately draft the response to that email. Amazing. And then next up, we've kind of got it using it for what we call coaching and drafting aspect of things here. So, we've all been in a scenario where we get copied into an email right at the very end of it. And there's already been a 20 email long thread, shall we say, that goes with that. And utilizing Copilot here, summary by Copilot at the top of the email, you'll see we do get an immediate summary of that entire email for us. My colleague, after they've got the summary, it went incredibly quick there, didn't it? Sorry, so let me slow things down a little bit for us. After we've hit that summary and we've got the summary of our email, my colleague goes ahead here and presses reply on the email. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Copilot here to both draft a response and do coaching on a response as well for us. So when this crops up for us, we get draft with Copilot and we see a box that appears here that we can type into. And what we can do at this point is we can go, what do we want this reply to say? Now, this was a scenario where there is a new store that's planned to be opened, and they're asking my colleague to basically pick up some roles and responsibilities as a part of the opening of that new store. So my colleague is basically going to type in a message here now, which is basically draft us an email, which accepts my role within this project and list out all of the actions that I intend to undertake as a part of this. And then you'll see, we type that in, we'll then see them hit those small little grey sliders that are underneath the text box. And what that box allows us to do is change the tone, the sentiment of the email and things like that. You'll see neutral, casual, formal, change the length, etc. of that. And then we press create a draft. And that's literally going away now and generating that draft email for us. Now, none of this has been increased in speed. This is exactly what you should expect to see from a user experience level. And then you'll see there, it's drafted up the email for us quick and easy. We could change it by typing something in, regenerate if we want to see it reworded, or we can just press keep it and it'll drop it directly into the inbox there for us. My colleague does something barbaric here now and puts, can we make it into a poem? And literally Copilot goes away and makes it into a poem for us. And we'll see there that crops through and we have the email as a poem. So we're going to hit discard at this point and throw it away. We're going to copy and paste an email in here in the interest of time. And off the back of that, what we're going to do is we're going to actually use Copilot to help coach us on our email. So coaching is when you've typed up your own email. And on the flip side of things, you now want Copilot to go, great, where could I have done better with this email? Am I coming across in the right manner? It's Friday afternoon. I'm in a rush. I've got lots to do. And I come across in a bit of a moody manner, shall we say. Copilot will highlight that for you based on the tone, the reader sentiment, and the clarity, etc. of that email as well. So you'll see on there, it's giving us some recommendations around all of that. Now, in the latest version of this, there is a button that will let you press apply, and it will apply all of the recommendations of the coach at this point in time. But from perspective of wanting to make your emails sound like they're carrying your tone of voice, they've been written by a human, coaching is a really good way of you just getting some hints and some tips without having you utilize AI for the physical purposes of drafting your email responses. Amazing. We're going to look at it in Microsoft Teams now. And this is going to be basically an almost after the fact aspect of a meeting. So when I say after the fact, it's the meeting's done, it's completed, it's been recorded and transcribed because I personally could not attend. And as a consequence of that, we're now going to catch up on that meeting is what we're going to do here now. So opening up our Microsoft Teams environment, we then will have, we can just zoom in on this a little bit, make it a bit bigger for us all. Perfect, that's great. And what we've got here now is we've opened up our meeting and we've got that traditional recording, etc. that's available to us inside of there that we'll all be very used to seeing. We have our little Copilot button at the top there. And you'll see underneath, it's just showing you all the pieces there around the individuals that were contributing to the meeting. Now, we hit that Copilot button at the top. That brings up our interface down the right-hand side. Very consistent. You'll see that that appears in many, many places throughout your journey. Continuing on here, that bit goes very quick, so I apologise. But basically all it's done is when we've done that is it's summarised the meeting for us. After it's summarised the meeting, you'll notice the next prompt that went in there is we asked it to list out the action items from the meeting. And down that right-hand side, it's done exactly that. Listed out all the action items and who those action items are assigned against as a part of this journey. Some recommended prompts that appear at the bottom there that we can utilize. But we can also carry on at this point and continue to digest this meeting and break it down into smaller pieces. We've asked it to list the action items already once. We're now asking it to look at what decisions were made during the course of this meeting, and it's generating that response for us so we can see exactly what was decisions were made during that meeting. Now, one thing it will do here now is those small little boxes that you can see with the numbers 1, 2, and 3, etc. in that email, in that SAD box, sorry. What those are is it's actually the source of information. So whether you're using this in Teams or you are using it for a web search or anything of that nature, those little boxes will show you the source of the information. So what website did I find it on? What document did I find this in? Which meeting or Teams chat did I find this piece of information in? So it's going to highlight that source of the information for you. Now inside, it should highlight that again for us, inside an actual Teams meeting, you'll see it also gives us the transcription point. So it gives us the piece of text and it gives us the timestamp inside of the recording as to exactly when that took place. So when we say that, it's basically saying at 3 minutes and 10 seconds into the recording, this is where we have this decision made by Lynn during the meeting. So I could flip to that point in the recording if I wanted to and watch it back, or even just take the transcript there and understand the context of the decision being made in front of us. So really powerful what you can do there for it. This does just continue as we go through the video to digest this even further, asking if the group agreed on the decision to push the project back. Did we reach a consensus on that decision? Asking it for a pros and cons list and things like that is what we're doing here now. And it will literally continue to dissect the meeting and provide that information, that context, and answer our questions accordingly. You can also use it at this point in time for doing things as well, like doing your follow-up emails and things like that to your client after the call, or even to your team to update them on the project. You can use the transcript to go, great, help me create now an email which I can share with my colleagues to update them on the delay of the project and any other relevant information that they'll need to forewarn customers on, for example. So again, it's carrying on there in the background, but again, really, really powerful stuff that you can get from this via those chats and interactions of the transcription. So a few things to kind of talk around here for you all, and this is where it's really quite powerful as well. We have on here Copilot for Outlook, it says, during your creation of your meeting, what you can actually do is you can actually do this bit here where it says the enable facilitator. Now, what the facilitator does is, I want to say it's a little bit drill sergeant-ish for me, if I'm honest, but it's incredibly powerful for bigger and longer meetings. What the facilitator tool allows you to do is have basically, I imagine it being like a bot that runs down the right-hand side of your meeting from Copilot. And what it's basically doing is providing you with the action items from the meeting, talking points of the meeting, the agenda for the meeting that's currently going on, etc., etc. But it's also providing other things like prompts. We're halfway through the meeting now, we need to speed things up. Or on the flip side of things, it'll be going, we are last 5 minutes and we've not covered off these 2 pieces of the agenda yet. You know, we may want to speed things up a little bit. So it's just providing those prompts, that information to you, etc., as you go through the call. At the top, you'll see that red box across the top there, which is highlighted from a meeting link, is giving us that ability to check in on who's attending the meeting, what happened in the last meeting, help me get prepared for the meeting, giving you some notes and some information. The follow button would allow you to request the meeting be recorded and transcribed if you cannot attend, rather than that traditional tentative button that used to sit in there. And if you are lucky enough to use Microsoft 365 Dynamics, you do also get access to what we call Copilot for Sales, which is where any kind of information that's relevant to the meeting inside your CRM system, it can extract that and provide it to you ahead of the call as part of your meeting prep. So again, before a meeting, loads of places it can support you ahead of time. During the meeting, if the meeting is being recorded and transcribed, you also have the ability to interact with Copilot. Only you see what happens when you interact with Copilot. You don't have to worry about asking it to summarize the call so far. Is there any questions that have been missed? Nobody else is going to see that input but yourself. It remains between you and Copilot. So you don't have to worry about your customer seeing you asking those sorts of questions of Copilot during your call. So really powerful from just, especially in a longer meeting, you've had an email drop in that says, or you've not had an email drop in, but you go back to it and ask Copilot, sorry, what happened in the first 5 minutes of the meeting, or you ask it, is there any questions that have been unanswered? It provides that information so you can circle back round to answering those questions, etc. So again, really good for insights and recapping on the meeting and things like that as you are going. And then after the meeting is usually a piece in here as well. So I have got a facilitator video here for you that I'm going to play, which will show you exactly what it looks like during the course of your meeting. I believe this does have a little bit of sound on it, so fingers crossed you can hear the sound. But Owen, do give me a thumbs up if there is no sound or anything, won't you? And I'll talk through what we're seeing inside of the video.
Yeah, of course. No audio, sorry.
No audio, that's absolutely fine. What I'll do is I'll pull it back here for a second, everyone, and I will talk you through what you're seeing on the video here. So facilitator in Teams is obviously can be set on before the meeting, as I mentioned. It can be set on as the meeting starts in the more options and then 10 on facilitator, as you're seeing here. Facilitators appearing there down that right-hand side menu with its agenda and the meeting notes that I discussed. Introduces itself into the meeting in that chatbot form, again, that I'd mentioned for you all. And you'll see halfway through, it's giving everyone a little bit of a recap, telling them how long's left, what's gone on so far in the meeting in terms of those notes, etc., which is great. We can also open up the facilitator at this point in time as well. And if it's taken some information down a little bit incorrectly, or in another scenario, maybe you're actually going to change the deadlines on a particular project and things that you've discussed, you can go back and manually change the meeting notes within there as you're going through. So you don't have to worry about that aspect of things. Now, what you're seeing here with it is you're seeing it inside of a meeting room where it's turning on facilitator in the meeting room for us so that we can take meeting notes, etc., in the room live. It's like an in-person style meeting almost for that. So again, utilizing the equipment in the room, but for an in-person meeting to be able to take those notes and leverage the facilitator as a part of that. Facilitator is an agent, so it is only accessible to paid for Microsoft Copilot licensed users at the present moment, or based on consumption models and things like that. It can be made available as well, but that is usually on a credit basis or a pay-as-you-go style model there that you would expect to see that. So Facilitator, really powerful in terms of what it can do. There is also going to be an interpreter on here. In the interest of time, I'm going to flick over the interpreter, but I will just talk to it for a brief second for you all. Interpreter will literally allow interpretation of a meeting in any given language. So if we was conversing in, I was speaking English and we had somebody else on the call that was Spanish, it could be live interpreting my English speech as Spanish in the call for them, and with transcriptions and things of that nature going on in English and in Spanish simultaneously and things like that as well. So really, really powerful from anybody who uses it on a, should we say, international, and there's language barriers, etc. Really, really useful. That video is available just as a quick YouTube search on the Microsoft channel. So if you are interested in seeing that, you can see it quickly and easily via that search. And then I said, the recap after the meeting, we have already touched on that aspect of things inside of here as we're going through. So that's basically catching up on the meeting after the fact with those meeting notes, the meeting summaries, etc., asking it, what did I miss in the meeting? What decisions were made in the meeting? Can you list out the action items, just as we saw on the recording a few moments ago? Amazing. I will flick over the Word one and dive onto the Excel one for you all here now. So inside of this, we're looking at a scenario here where my colleague has created a database with a rather large amount of bakery data inside of it. What's actually going on here is we have a Excel spreadsheet that's been created into a table. Has to be in a table format here, purely from the perspective of that's how Copilot can see and interpret the data. If it isn't done, just highlight the data, hit at the top there, format as a table. So we've got that information there. We've got November and December revenues for this bakery business, expenses, cost per unit, etc., etc. And my colleague is basically going to be going through Copilot here and having it create scenarios for us where it's going to add some additional columns of formulas in. It's also going to be doing things around conditional formatting and creating a dashboard as the last step inside of here for us as well. So we should see my colleague any second now. We'll go up there and hit the Copilot icon. And the first thing that we do inside of here is it has some suggested prompts for us. And in the interest of obviously getting a bit of creative idea in here, we're going to ask Copilot to suggest a formula column for us. And Copilot goes away, generates what it thinks is going to be a good column for us to add in there based on the available data in the side of there and the other titles, etc. provided. And what you'll see is it's going through revenue growth for us. So the revenue growth between November and December 24 for us. It gives us the formula so we can learn as we're going or choose to input the formulas, or we can just press insert column and immediately just drop those columns directly into there with all of that necessary information for us. So it'll do that there, and then we can continue to go and add further information. Now, we don't want that column as a percentage. We'd love to have that column of revenue based on a pounds and pence perspective. And again, requesting that it provides that information to us as an additional column. It's going to go away and do that for us now. So not only do we have that ROAF revenue as a percent number, we can also have it in here in a currency column also. And again, providing us the formula and that revenue number that can go with that as well. Now, to carry on here for us, my colleague does just add a couple more columns in, but we're going to start adding in here a little bit of conditional formatting now as well. So we're going to ask it to apply some conditional formatting to the cells in the table using the formula to highlight in red any bakery goods that have a profit of less than £1,000, for example. And you'll see we've requested it in red. We've requested it on the columns that are less than £1,000, and it's going to go away based on the profit column, provide that conditional formatting for us in red. And then we're going to continue with that and ask it to provide some conditional formatting for us if it's over a certain figure of 3,500 and provide those columns in green as a part of that as well. So you can see it's starting to produce that information for us and provide that color context in terms of the conditional formatting. Now, as we go through here, again, I'm very concerned around the time we've got here. We've not got as far as I'd hoped. One of the things that you're going to see my colleague do here right at the very end, is providing some data insights is what we're going to see now. So we're going to hit here, show some data insights, and that is going to go away and provide initially a little graph for us, a little piece of a table. And that crops up there, as we see, red, amber, green in terms of what it's provided for us. And then underneath there, it gives us a recommended prompts of add all insights to grid that you'll be able to see at the very bottom. So my colleague is going to click on there in a second and press add all insights to grid. And then what that's actually going to do for us is it's going to create a secondary tab. And in that secondary tab, you'll see it's created a whole host of additional charts for us and graphs and additional information, as well as the pivot tables that all that information has been based upon. So it provides us with everything we need there to create a very basic dashboard of exactly what we're seeing in front of us of that data on the other screen. And then obviously as the pivot tables update, we could update the graphs and the charts, etc., that we see above that automatically as well. So really, really good way of being able to get loads of visualizations of a large data set quickly and easily. Amazing. So plugins, customize agents, and talking around agents themselves. Agents are broken into 5 categories. Without sticking on these for too long, we have what we call reactive agents. And again, just to touch on an agent is a bespoke Copilot that has been built for a very specific task or group of tasks as it's known. And these agents get categorized into these 5 kind of areas. So reactive ones, which are basically responding to an it's going away and finding maybe a clause inside of a HR document. Let's say you're asking it to find, your maternity leave policies and things like that. We have model-based agents, which is where it basically brings different aspects of a project, a process together, and kind of pieces them all together and creates that final project piece. We've got goal-based ones, which are aiming towards a clear outcome. So you will provide information and it will give a desired output, such as maybe a resume builder, for example. You provided all of your data and the goal is for it to have a completed resume for you at the end of it. We then have utility-based ones, which weighs outcomes for the best results. So it's doing things like maybe looking at 3 different sources of information, summarising that, and then giving a perspectived output around it. And then you have things like learning-based agents, which is where, as their knowledge bases expand, what their capabilities do is expand as well. So the task that they perform, as their base of knowledge gets larger and better, that you provide it, it can then perform the task better and better over time. So we kind of break them into those different categories. There is a really good Microsoft description that is available around all of these if you are interested in looking into that a little bit further. But what I did want to touch on as well was some use cases for how we're starting to see those agents physically utilised today. Healthcare being a really big one. This sounds like a bit of a joke, but there is actually a Copilot that's actually called Copilot Dragon, which is designed specifically for the healthcare sector. And it is supporting them in doing activities like what you're seeing on the screen here now around things like symptom checkers that are being built into the NHS's websites. We've got things on here like reading scans for MRIs, assisting with diagnostics, X-ray scans and things of that nature, flagging risks like sepsis, etc., before it escalates, just based on available data that hospitals around the world will have inputted into their own systems, etc. So Copilot Dragon, healthcare centric version that Microsoft have built. And like I say, that is designed around doing all of these great activities that you see in here that are helping support people in hospital environments on a day-to-day basis by being able to consume and scan large amounts of data quickly and flag for human intervention, should we say, anything that it potentially sees as an anomaly or warrants further investigation, for example. We have scenarios in finance. Finance is one we see used in massively for Copilot, especially with the analyst agents and things like that now exist. And again, you'll see it on here being utilised to flag unusual activities, like large withdrawals and things that banks have got it being utilised for at the moment. New locations, utility-based agents learn spending habits and guard savings and investments, etc. I'm sure many of you have probably seen these sorts of things starting to get baked into people's banking apps, etc., where it can provide that information. And then goal-based agents as well that are a part of this, that assess risk, look at people's credit scores and large volumes of financial data, etc. as well. So again, think of things like, mortgage advisors and things like that are being able to utilize agents to be able to assess people's financial backgrounds, data and history, etc., to make more informed decisions on these types of financial outcomes. Manufacturing and retail is another really big area, and you can see there's several kind of pieces where this fits in nicely. Maintenance, agents that are monitoring equipment, looking at their maintenance schedules, looking at breakdowns, looking at potential issues that may be coming and haven't actually happened yet because it can see it in the data. So again, repair planning, failure planning before it even happens. So preventative work and after the fact. And we're seeing this really heavily as well, actually, in the trucking industry at the moment, where they're using it to schedule and planning things around like, MOTs of truck vehicles, that type of thing, servicing of the vehicles, all the way through to, break fix work, etc. after the fact when the truck's had an accident and it's broken the tail light. They're planning that in, informing different parties, taking it out of routes, things of that nature. Inventory planning as well, predicting patterns, ordering just in time, etc. The quality aspect of things for a Q&A perspective. Again, we're seeing the likes of large organisations bake this in now into like scanning systems and things, so they can scan a box to make sure there's no damage or the contents of the box before it leaves the warehouse and things of that nature. And then onto the personalisation aspect. So again, from a customer's perspective, you can use it on there, as it says, for monitoring customer behaviour, buying patterns, and things of that nature, adjusting pricing in real time, and so on and so forth. So again, really great use cases that we're seeing it here from, retail, manufacturing, inventory perspectives, quality control, and protecting organisations as much as it does their customers. And then emerging industries that we're seeing it in now, educational, pharmaceutical that have actually been using it probably longer than anybody, and government that's now heavily invested in it as well. Again, there's a really, really good story around the civil service actually utilising Copilot, how much time it was saving each individual person in their pilot, and how much they anticipated it would save them over a year based on that average score, etc. And again, That's not Microsoft that have published that document. It's readily available on the DirectGov website, where you can access that document and see just exactly how in depth they went into this from the civil services perspective, with how much time it would save them, the cost implications of that time saving, and it equates to literally like hundreds and hundreds of days as a organisation over a year-long period that they can then give back to staff to do other tasks, other activities, and that's before they've even dug into using things like agents. That is literally just the basic productivity gains from Copilot. So again, another really good story there that can be told and available from the DirectGov website. So agents inside. Agents I'm going to show you now. I am going to flick over the what are agents, because we've kind of covered that off for you all already. Agents are available. Anybody who is licensed on the call here today, you will find agents in the left-hand side menu in your Copilot chat. You will have two pieces that sit inside of there, all agents, which is where it opens up an agent store for you to have a look at them, and create agents, where you can have a go at creating your own basic introductory agent as a part of things there. This is a big list of the Microsoft pre-created agents that exist. Researcher and analyst are a couple of the major ones, but there is also a knowledge base agent for SharePoint, a project manager one, there's the interpreter and the facilitator agents we've already spoken about, the surveys agents, which is designed for helping you with Microsoft Forms, so you can create and send out survey forms and things like that after the fact, or feedback, or even if it's going to be an event registration one, all of that type of thing. You can use the surveys agent to support you in creating those and sharing them with your customers or with your internal staff. And like I say, we've got a quick video here around kind of the researcher agent and things as well. I'll skip over the researcher one. We are on the last few minutes here now, and I'm going to really quickly show you all here the analyst agent. Video is about a minute long, and we have a substantial size document here of financial data built over 2 or 3 different tabs, as you can see. And what we're going to do as a part of this is we're going to get the analyst agent to, in short, provide us with a graph and a summary of what we're seeing here inside of this information. Maybe this isn't my document, I've not created it or been in it before, and I just want to be able to give it a really quick understanding of what are some insights and things like that, and give me a graph to visualize this. And we've given it the document in question, which is that FY24 revenue report. You'll see it here doing various different aspects of this, and you can see it going through its thought process and little bits of coding and Python language and things like that it needs to utilize at this point. And it's going to take us on that little journey with it, shall we say, as it goes through there. I do have to try and pause right at the end here. You can see there all of that coding that it's doing as a part of this journey to create the diagram we've requested, but also digest all of that information as well inside of here. There it's providing some of that context, and then right at the end here, you'll see it's provided that summary and that graph visualization of that data that we've just asked for there. But the analyst agent is pretty phenomenal. You can ask it to digest huge data sets, break it down for a summary. Maybe you want it for an exec summary to put into a presentation, or to forward on for an email, or maybe you need to look at data trends and patterns and things like that. And again, it can support with all of that type of activity in a very, very intuitive way. I'm going to hand back over to you now, Owen, purely because of the time, etc., and your finishing remarks for us. As Owen said, that obviously we will be, sharing the information, etc., afterwards. So there is a whole host of further things in here that are available to you, like some additional resources and adoption support that's coming up. So what a good prompt looks like that I recommend you read, but also 10 things to try first in Copilot when you get your license, and the scenario library, so you can understand how counterparts in other industries or the same industry, or even people in your job role, so a finance manager, a sales manager, etc., are all using it in their day-to-day. So it gives you some really good inspiration to make sure you're getting the most out of it. But with that, I'll hand back over to you, Owen, and thank you very much, everyone, for listening to me today.
Brilliant. Perfect. And thanks so much for that, James. I haven't really seen too many questions in the QA, so I'm assuming that was all very well executed. It is a challenge to to fit all of Copilot into an hour session, so you've done exceptionally well there. As you can see on screen, there's a QR code there. If you want to scan it, take you through to a form for one of us to come out and talk to you in more detail around artificial intelligence, Copilot, or anything AI related. And I'd recommend you do that, and we'll come out and have a longer session where you'll be slightly less rushed. Thank you all for attending. It's been a brilliant session, and I'll see you on the next one.